Aireka Harvell. She is the founder of a company called Nodat. So welcome to the show today, Aireka.
Thank you for having me.
It is totally my pleasure. And I'm so excited to dig into your business because this is a business that I think there's a lot of our listeners are going to be very interested in learning more about because there's so much shifting going on in the landscape of trying to, get in front of your ideal customers and so on. And your business actually will help them do that. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, what are three things, in your opinion, that every small business owner needs to know?
Three things every small business owner needs to know. I would say the value proposition, um, how to communicate their value proposition, uh, articulate it to the way that a user or a customer automatically knows the benefit that you provide to them.
Yep.
Um, I would say financial literacy,
Mm.
understanding your numbers and how much money you're spending to make money. And I would say how to build relationships, how to go outside of what's comfortable to you and build relationships to help your company grow.
So, what kind of relationships are you talking about? Relationships with like other partner organizations,
Mhm.
or is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Very good. And I want to go back to that financial literacy one because that's such an important one. And it's so funny. When you said that, an example popped into my mind as to one of our clients in the past. We were doing a marketing campaign for them that involved a bunch of different advertising, split testing and stuff, right? And so we were testing different kinds of messages in different markets across, well, it was actually a global campaign. And one of the things that we discovered as we were doing it is we found like kind of like the holy grail in terms of the match of the audience with the messaging, and our ROAS, or return on ad spend, was just off the charts. For every dollar that they were spending in advertising, they were making $10 back in products. So we had a 10 times return on that, and the profitability of the product was really high, and so they were making really good profit off of every dollar that they were investing. And so it was so funny because I was explaining this to them, and I was telling them that, now would be the time to, invest a lot more money into this particular tactic. And they flat out said, no, we're not going to do that. And instead, they reverted back to tactics that were much less profitable. And I couldn't
Oh, wow.
understand what the heck they were doing because it just did not make any sense at all. They were actually, leaving all this extra money on the table, so to speak. And so financial literacy in all forms is really important for businesses to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, I wish they would have taken your advice. But what I noticed with a lot of small businesses is that they are afraid to spend money on marketing because they're more so worried about being able to have the money to uh, re up on their product. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, in this case, I think at the heart of it was they were really debating whether or not they wanted to do a direct to consumer model, or if they wanted to do and maintain their, through agents and through distributors and
Oh,
retailers,
okay.
that model. And so they were really debating as to which to go. And so they wanted to do all this testing. We tested it out, proved that we could go direct and make them extremely profitable, but they backed away from it in fear of the repercussions, I think was at the end of the day, which I still think was
Oh,
a mistake because there's so many businesses out there that are able to do both, sell from their website as well as sell through distribution channels. And
mhm.
I think the fear of pissing off the distribution channel is misplaced nowadays because most manufacturers are doing it already anyway. So they're
Oh,
used to it.
okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, everybody has their own path that they have to follow. So speaking of which, let's talk about your path specifically with Nodat. So when did this idea come about? And well, first off, I guess let's tell the audience what Nodat is and what problem you're trying to solve.
Sure. So Nodat is a app that uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing to personalize the local search experience for you.
Yeah,
And the problem that we're trying to solve is inefficient and irrelevant search results that are time consuming. Um, in helping you find information in any local area that is important to you.
yeah. And so now, is this something that just came about on the coattails of all the AI talk that we're hearing about right now? With Chat
Yeah.
GPT and that kind of thing.
No, we've been working on this specific model since 2020. But we started working on Noda and solving the what we call the information gap problem in 2017 after my son came to me highly upset that I didn't get to take him to this water park that had opened in our area. And I realized, that I was pretty upset myself and I couldn't figure out why or how I could live in the same area where this huge water park opened and go all summer and not know about it.
Right, yeah, like it's really remarkable because I'm in the marketing business, and I would say that most consumers are just inundated with messages all the time, advertisements and so on, right? So you kind of get
Mhm.
numb to that a little bit, and so it is really difficult to surface, if you're the business, surface your business and your offer in front of the consumer. And so I can relate to the frustration, but just from the other side of the fence, from a marketer trying to help other businesses, because there's just so much noise out there. So I'm not surprised that
Mhm.
you missed that. And I feel bad for your son then as well.
They've gotten to go now. And I made sure I took videos and I was like, this is the water park that started Know that.
Yeah, and so basically that idea of not knowing what was going on in your region or in your particular area, and that would be something of interest to you, sparked this idea that, hey, there's probably a lot of businesses out there that are really struggling to get in front
Mhm.
of consumers, and there's a lot of consumers out there that are probably struggling to really understand or to identify the things that might be of greatest interest to them amongst all that noise then, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the main things that I focused on was making sure that I got relevant information. Because
Mm,
as you mentioned, there's a lot of noise. And so I do not, I don't accept cookies on websites. And so I figured that the reason that I did not receive or see any of those ads anywhere online is because I had not shared, access to my private information when I'm searching online.
yeah.
And so I thought to myself, well, how can I continue to protect my privacy and choose who is allowed to advertise to me? So I started trying to figure out how to create something that would allow me to get that information from my family and friends without having to share data. And so we started out like with the video reviews
Yeah.
in 2017, and then pivoted to this model here because sharing data is important. It allows my experience of learning about different things in my area to be that much more efficient, especially when I travel as well. So we started focusing on first party data and being transparent with the consumer and basically working with the user to protect their data and at the same time helping them find the information that they need.
Yeah. Can
That
you, I guess, walk our audience through first party versus third party data and this whole cookieless world that we're about to embark on pretty soon? Because I think there's probably a lot of business owners who have maybe heard some of those terms before, but don't fully understand what they mean.
Sure. So first party data is data that the consumer voluntarily shares with the business, like your birthday, your first name, address, um, whether you have children, where you work, things like that. Um, it's information that you voluntarily give to the consumer. There are some businesses out there right now that are switching to like QR codes and surveys. So if you take a survey, then you're volunteering to give that information to the business so that they can use that data to create products for you or messaging or just, make business decisions.
Yep.
Third party data is data that is collected using third party cookie tracking or data that is shared in between different companies. For example, Facebook has third party tracking or third party data sharing with a lot of organizations, and they get a lot of their data from these companies so that they can target you for ads when you're on their platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what everybody sees now when they go to visit a new website is that little alert that says we use cookies on this website. Please accept these cookies or reject them. Or if you're going to be continuing to use this site, know that you are agreeing to be tracked by these cookies. And so when somebody clears their cookies, then that information is lost. Then they can't track. But basically, what the cookie does is it allows the person that placed the cookie there. So if you come over to Ample Media, our website, then we can see what you're doing, or we can collect some of that data from the rest of your search behavior and so on. And so then that is information then that allows us then to target you with ads when you're over looking at the weather network or the local sports scores or whatever the case might be. And so that's all going away here right away with I think it's 2024. Yeah. So we have less than a year, I think, and that will no longer be an option. And so we won't have, as marketers and businesses, the ability to kind of follow people around. And so how do we know, what to position in front of whom in terms of our offers that are going to make the most sense? So me knowing that you are a mother, right, that lives in a particular region of a particular city, well, then I can advertise then the businesses that are relevant potentially to mothers in that region. Without
Mhm.
the cookies, without first person data, I don't know that then. And so my marketing is a lot less targeted. You're solving that though. So tell us how you're solving that.
We're solving that by being, one, leveraging AI and creating a AI local assistant chatbot that acts as the middleman um, between the consumer and the business. Um, and it's basically a conduit for the data. Our AI collects first party data from the users who download our app to create their own localized search recommendation experience. And then we store that data, protect that data, and create buyer personas. And then we then share those personas to our businesses on our back end and allow them to target a specific type of consumer.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so cool. And I just love this because this is one of the biggest challenges that we as marketers are trying to figure out. How are we going to be able to target these people once the cookies are gone? And this is a brilliant solution that is not in the marketplace today. So I applaud you for coming up with this idea and really, moving forward and creating something amongst the giants out there in terms of the companies that are kind of selling data and selling access to people's personas, right? So carry on. I just wanted to interject and just say good on you for doing what you're doing.
thank you. And yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned, amongst the giants, which has been something that we've had to keep an eye on and be really quiet as we grow. So if you see, we don't do a lot of noise and marketing as well about our processes, just simply because we don't want to sound an alarm to them until we get a specific amount of the market.
Yep.
But um, what I was getting ready to say about the conduit is we're also helping the business facilitate their opt-ins and opt-outs. So that's going to be one of the biggest things when the third-party cookies go away, is how is facilitating the opt-in for your customer to be able to opt in to share first party data with you. And so what we have developed is a way to manage that on our platform, so that the consumer can see who has access to their data, control who has access to that data, control who can use that information to directly connect with them on our platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would liken it a lot for our listeners here to, it's almost like a dating app in the sense that if you're on a dating app, you want to fill in as much information, give as much about you into that so that you can match up to the right, potential partner as possible. And so that's the first person or first party data that you are providing that dating app, and you're motivated to give them that information, that very private information, because it's so useful for the end result, which is that
Mhm.
the right matching. And that's essentially what you guys are doing. And that's why I think you're going to be so successful with this, is because inherently the consumer, the person who's downloaded the app, wants to receive the best recommendations for the businesses or for the activities or whatever within their area of that
Mhm.
local search as possible. And so there's just inherently going to be a reduction of that, barrier to getting the data. And so then they're going to populate that. And then, but the biggest concern is control.
Mhm.
Who, I want to control that data. I want to, maybe when I break up with said company, I want to turn that off so they don't have my data anymore. They can't
Yeah.
access it. They can't target me. And you're giving that ability for people to break up.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so in terms of the business then and your journey here, what has been, some of the biggest hurdles that you've had to overcome to get to the stage in which you're at right now, where you have a viable product, you're out there, you've got people who've downloaded the app, and that user base is growing, and you've got businesses that are wanting to offer things through the app and are subscribing now.
The biggest thing was, like we talked about earlier, we're a double-sided marketplace. And so we had to figure out um, which side to focus on first. And so we decided to test both sides at the same time. But we had to find the value to get the users onto the platform so that the business can engage and connect with them, and so that our machine could start learning and collecting data and learning from that data.
Yep.
And so that was the biggest challenge. It was, we tested a lot of things before we got to product market fit on that. And then I would say, uh, raising capital. I'm in the South, and Nashville, Tennessee. And most of these types of companies are built and born in the West Coast. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was really difficult at first to get people to believe that someone in the South could start a company like this or grow a company like this. And so being one of the first in Nashville to launch a marketing tech company was really difficult. But we have, so many people was like, oh my gosh, girl, you are serious, and we got your back. And Nashville, now the Nashville Business Journal calls it Nashville's Nodat.
I love it. Yeah. So it was, isn't that great, right? To get that kind of recognition after trying to, navigate, really some uncharted territory for you in that region. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So back to the double-sided market. So you're trying to grow, the app. user base, because the businesses are going to want to have a user base to target. So they're not excited to get onto it until that happens. And then you also have a bit of a challenge probably getting users on if there isn't a lot of other businesses on there. I know the AI is also grabbing stuff from the internet, and so it's still very useful even if there isn't any businesses targeting it. But you're still having to build both at the same time. You said you did try some things out and you've managed to figure out a way to overcome that challenge. Do you mind sharing what was the solution to that? What did you come up with? How were you able to do it?
Basically, building our own API of businesses and go and pulling that information in, almost like a freemium model, and
Yeah.
having that information readily available for the user, so that there's always something there for them to consume. And then moving the AI to the front of the app and giving them this experience of, this is my AI that I can talk to. I can decide if I want the AI to be a he, she, or they. This AI is getting to know me. So we moved Savant to the forefront of the app where it was in the background. And
Okay.
so uh, that is how we solved, the issue of not having the hot offers was the main thing, right? Not having enough hot offers on the platform. Um, all the time for the consumers to redeem. So just moving that recommendation system and making it more of a assistant that in conversational search is how we solve that.
Yeah, yeah. So again, I would liken that then to, if only Netflix, I could, have somebody that I could, or like an assistant that I could just talk to, and instead of having that recommended for you,
Mhm.
it's actually I can talk to that assistant and just explain to them what I'm wanting in this particular moment in time, and they'll surface what it is that I want, right? And so it's going to be quite a almost an intimate relationship that people are going to be developing with these assistants, right? Because they
Mhm.
really truly are going to help facilitate so much of their purchase behavior, their activities, the recreational, everything, right? That's happening in that region in which they live.
Yes, and it's basically the AI that you control,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's like building your own. That's why I was saying it's like having a super friend that knows just about everything, but only gives you what you want. It's
Yeah.
like creating that type of relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Really cool. Okay. So what's the goal then? Say in 5 years' time, where do you want Nodat to be? What is your goal?
In 5 years' time, I would like for Nodat to allow consumers to have their own marketing ID that they can, like, it's a number that, Savant assigns to each user, and this number they can, tap into their Apple TV when they travel, or into their Bluetooth speakers when they travel, so that they can have these recommendations with them wherever they go, where it's also connected to, like, Netflix knows what I like
Mm.
because of my marketing ID, and it's universal to me. So it's not only, just local search, but book recommendations, podcast recommendations.
Yeah.
Um, so that is the goal, to create these unique marketing IDs that consumers control.
Really cool. Okay, so then here's the tough question. How are you going to overcome the challenges that are in front of you for that? So what do you think are going to be the biggest hurdles to get to there, and what's the solution that you got for it?
Mm. Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle is the like protecting the data.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's going to be our biggest hurdle, is finding the right technology that would allow us to protect consumer data across multiple. Like with these IDs, there is one company right now, a Web3 company, that is working on um, creating IDs and with it's called anonymization. I can't think of the name of it. I can't even think of the name of it right now.
It's okay.
But it anonymizes the consumer's data across multiple devices, and so just looking to see who. and what type of technology we will have access to be able to protect the consumer's data across multiple devices. I think that's going to be the biggest um, challenge that we've run into with creating these unique IDs.
Now, I would also think that this is one of those things when we alluded to this earlier on, in the sense that you're surrounded by some giants in the space of, marketing and data,
Mm,
and really trying to, collect and use and leverage people's data. And so as things change on that front, they're going to be looking at companies like you that are like Nodat, that has taken a different approach, right? And if they
mhm.
like what they see, I mean, it could be an acquisition, I suppose, but it also could be a risk there in terms of them just bulldozing into that space. Do you see that as a big risk? And if
Of
so,
course.
what do you do to overcome something like that?
Well, for one, it's gonna have to be our culture, our personality. The fact, as long as we are transparent with our users and we build that loyalty with our users, um, maintain the fact that our users are in control, it would be really really hard for platforms like that are the giants that we're talking about right now, like Google and Facebook and all of them, to completely give up the control that they have. Where we start by putting the control in the consumer's hands. So our goal is to build up that transparent relationship from the very beginning with our users, to the point to where the loyalty is with us. And then
Mm,
also just protecting our trade secrets, keeping things on the low, and not, like I said, we don't do a lot of marketing. So and I don't pitch to Google. I don't pitch to my competitors who are in this space. Like, a lot of my advisors will send me emails like, Google is giving away $100,000. I'm like, not ready for them to even know what we're doing yet.
yeah,
And so like just maintaining that relationship, gaining enough of the market to where an acquisition would make more sense. And I love Peter Thiel's book, Zero to One,
mm,
and I keep this in the forefront of my mind, where he was going up against the credit card companies when he first created PayPal, and he was faced with the same thing, right? And his goal was to make the credit card companies his customer. And so that is in the forefront of my mind. It's like, okay, how can we develop this to where either an acquisition only makes sense from one of these customers, and we have in mind who we want to be acquired by, and or how can we make them a customer of ours?
yeah. So obviously, as you're thinking about the acquisition, being an acquisition target, then what how does that, I guess, shape or influence some of the decisions that you make as you're growing your business, as you're developing the business? Does that change your way of thinking at all?
It does. We stay up to date on what the companies that we are aiming for um, to be acquired by, and we make sure that we build for the problems that they have, that is hard for them to solve. That would make us an easy or a smart decision to partner with, or to acquire, or to even invest in. And so it does affect my decisions um, quite a bit, to make sure that we are developing for that acquisition.
Yeah. Yeah, which is smart. All right. Like if you want to be as appealing as possible, if that's one of the exit strategies that you have in mind. So
Mhm.
now, if you could, write your younger entrepreneurial self a letter and send that back in time. So back to 2017 when you first started the business, maybe, what would you put in that letter to yourself?
I would tell myself, one, um, imposter syndrome is just that.
Hmm.
and to be confident and to walk in a room knowing that you know what you're talking about. You know that you deserve to be in this space, just like anybody else, and to just go after it. I would also make sure that I have product market fit before I leave my job.
Mm,
That's one of the things that I did. I worked for, like I was saying, I worked for AT&T. I was making $100,000 a year, and we had got to a lot of users on the platform. And one of my advisors was like, "It's time for you to leave. You got to leave your job. You got to do this full time." And I listened, um, and we didn't have product market fit.
mm.
We had the cool idea of the video reviews, but after I left my job is when the businesses were basically like, "This is a cool thing, like we like it, but it's not solving our problem." And I would tell my younger self to make sure that you have product market fit before um, you know, completely jumping out there going full time. Make sure you have advisors. Having a support system is the main thing that any small business owner, startup owner can do for themselves, to make sure that they are successful.
Yeah. Well, this is a perfect opportunity for me to just do a self plug. We just actually developed a recipe book essentially on the first, after interviewing the first 200 entrepreneurs on this show, where we basically distilled all that knowledge down into a book. And it's something that actually includes a chapter on advisors and the importance of it, because that is one of the most common uh, things that we heard, across those first 200 interviews that we've
Mhm.
done. So, yeah, so anybody who's interested in that, check out our book. You're going to learn a lot about that, as well as other things
That's
that are
cool.
going to really help you grow your business. Yeah. So anyway, this has been a fascinating conversation. I love the fact that you're going up against the giants, and you've found this lane that is somewhat untouched, right? You fit into a sweet spot there, and so that product market fit obviously is here right now, and you're seeing some
Mhm.
success and signups and
Mhm.
everything else. Are you in Canada yet?
Not yet. One of our advisors are, and they're going to help us when we get there, but we are not in Canada yet.
Okay. So for those of you who are listening who want to check this out and you are in the US, what's the best way for them to find you?
Nodatplace.com. So Nodat place.com. And then the app is Nodat. And we're on Android and iOS.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Erica, and explaining your business as well as sharing with us some of your story as you have developed this business and continue to grow it.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
So, for those of you who are listening to this episode and really enjoyed it, and want to check out some other entrepreneurial stories and learn something from all of our past episodes, head over to amplifyyourbusiness.ca. That's where you're going to find our archive. And of course, subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform by just searching Amplify Your Business. Until next time, everybody have a prosperous day.